supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol. Congress reconvened session to certify Biden victory after being suspended temporarily. President-elect Joe Biden calls the turn of events an insurrection. Twitter logs Trump account for 12 hours. Democrats set to control the U.S. Senate as party candidates John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock are projected to win the Georgia elections. The result splits the Senate 50-50, with the Vice President-elect Kamala Harris deciding the tiebreaker. Prime Minister Modi to dedicate the Rewari Madar section of Western dedicated freight corridor to the nation today. The Prime Minister will also flag off the world's first double-stack long-haul 1.5-kilometer long container train hauled by the electric traction. Another dry run for COVID-19 vaccination to take place tomorrow. Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan to hold a meeting with the states today. Recovery rate in the country at 96.36%. Only one death per million population recorded in 10 days. Government steps up vigil after bird flu reported from 5 states. The Health Ministry sets up a multidisciplinary team. Officials dispatched to Kerala. Environment Ministry issues advisory for states on preventive and control measures. Prime Minister Modi holds a video teleconference with his German counterpart Angela Merkel, discusses about the response to the COVID-19 pandemic, assures the German leader of India's commitment to deploy its capacities for the benefit of the world. External Affairs Minister S. Shankar calls on Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapakse, reiterates commitment to India's neighbourhood-first policy in talks with Sri Lankan counterpart, reassures Colombo of supplying COVID-19 vaccines. And in cricket, Australia win the toss and elect to bat first in the third test being played in Sydney. Rain stops the play after David Warner departs early. Hello and good morning. You're watching DD India with me, Nancy Kohli. Top story: the U.S. lawmakers returned to the Capitol to continue the counting of the Electoral College votes at around 6:30 this morning India time, hours after a mob of rioters overran the building and set members of the Congress fleeing. The situation was brought under control by the National Guard troops who dispersed the crowds. Earlier, chaos erupted inside the Capitol building as thousands of pro-Trump demonstrators charged the complex and eventually made their way onto the Senate floor, plunging Washington into crisis and halting the congressional count of Electoral College votes to confirm President-elect Joe Biden's victory. The president fomented thousands of supporters in a speech by the White House before they marched to the Capitol, vowing to never concede the election. The video was, however, later taken down from the social media. And the President-elect of the U.S., Joe Biden, has termed the activity of the protesters borders on sedition. The former vice president called the demonstrators at the Capitol invasion of the Congress and threatening the safety of duly elected officials as not a protest but insurrection. He also called on the mob to pull back and allow the work of democracy to go forward. He also urged Trump to go on national television to demand an end to this siege.
It's not protest, it's insurrection. The world's watching. Like so many other Americans, I am genuinely shocked and saddened that our nation, so long the beacon of light and hope for democracy, has come to such a dark moment. Through war and strife, America's endured much. And we will endure here, and we will prevail again, and will prevail now. The work of the moment and the work of the next 4 years must be the restoration of democracy, of decency, honor, respect, the rule of law, just plain, simple decency.
earlier, with regard to the ongoing situation in Washington, D.C., Twitter has removed 3 tweets from the account of President Donald Trump and logged his account for 12 hours following the removal of his tweets that contained repeated and severe violations of its civic integrity policy. Twitter mentioned this at 5:30 in the morning. The company has also warned that further violations of its rules will result in permanent suspension of the president's Twitter account. Twitter also mentioned that the situation will be continuously evaluated in real time, including the examining of the activity on the ground and the statements made of Twitter. It will keep the public informed, including if further escalation in our enforcement approach is necessary. Now, Facebook and YouTube also removed the video from the president's accounts. The video showed Trump repeating unfounded claims that the election was taken from him and encouraging his supporters to disperse after violence erupted at the Capitol. And at least 13 individuals have been arrested during the riots on the Capitol Hill. Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police said that 5 guns, including handguns and long guns, have also been seized. He said some officers are being treated for injuries. One woman was shot inside the complex and later succumbed to her injuries. The citywide curfew began at 11:30 at night last night till 11:30 in the morning today. Now, Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock have defeated Georgia's 2 incumbent U.S. senators in the state's runoff elections in a development that gives their party effective control of the Senate. Republicans controlled 50 seats in the Senate following November's elections and would have remained the majority party in the 100-seat chamber with just 1 win in Georgia. But instead, Democrats picked up 2 seats and now are set to run the Senate as a Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris will cast the tie-breaking votes. And let's now go across to our correspondent Abhishek Jha, who's joining us with more updates on that. Abhishek, just put this into perspective for us. What's really happening, with the U.S. lawmakers there returning to the Capitol to continuing the counting of the electoral college votes, and of course, the tweets being deleted by President Trump as well. Just put all of these developments into perspective for us, just days ahead of the president's inauguration that's going to be taking place on the 20th.
So Nancy, as you have said that this electoral colleges counting will continue, as Nancy Pelosi has herself said. Meanwhile, this unprecedented chaos that has occurred at Capitol Hill was not the world has seen ever happen. And all the credit for this all chaotic thing has been accredited to Donald Trump and his march. He was trying to instigate people through his Twitter account, through his other social media accounts. And so far, we are hearing news that his social media accounts have been probably withdrawn from him. And he'll not be able to exercise those social media accounts to instigate the chaos further. Also, during this chaos and writing one woman was shot and later she was declared dead. Meanwhile, so many other police officers and security personnel were also injured, and they are also getting treatment for that because few of the protesters also had small arms and some chemical irritants that they sprayed on security personnel while they were trying to stop them from entering to the building. All across the USA, the political parties, they have condemned this act because so far we have known that even though the world has acknowledged the fact that USA election has been won by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris team, Donald Trump has somehow not been able to digest the fact that he is defeated. He said that the victory has been stolen from him. He has continued to garner support. He has continued to push and pressure officials, election officials across those 6 battleground states where he has been defeated by small margins to revert that claim somehow and manage a even smaller victory for him so that he could retain that his presidency. We have seen so many various conflicting reports over the weekends how Donald Trump tried to pressurize officials, election officials in Georgia. This all chaos and his reluctance to accept the fact that he has defeated has created this act of demonstration and chaos in USA, and now this is becoming a wild, across the country and across the world. This whole act is being condemned now.
All right, so all of this act has been contained, you are telling us. So has the Congress reconvened? Abhishek, more inputs on that, and also, we're getting to know that 13 individuals have also been arrested during these riots.
Of course, Nancy, thousands of protesters, almost a lakh of protesters were there who marched inside, along the Capitol Hill, and thousands of them entered that building. They smashed windows and broke the furniture, and there was chaos all across while Mike Pence, the vice president, was evacuated. Other Senate members had to be rushed into safe, spaces, and they were told that they needed to put masks so that in case some chemical, irritants or something is spread, they could be safe. There was this utter chaos, and that is when Nancy Pelosi decided, before this whole chaos began, that the whole college counting and the debate on the last November election will continue. We don't know yet if the U.S. Congress has started that debate, but we know that since things have become very much under control, the National Guards have been called. U.S. Washington D.C. mayor has also called for a curfew for overnight. It looks like the administration and the authorities are very much in control for now, and we assume that soon this whole congressional debate will also resume with authorities taking control of the situation.
All right, and U.S. President Donald Trump, they're appealing to these protesters to go home, but at the same time also, calling them very special protesters. So, how do we read into these statements coming in by the U.S. President Donald Trump, who is not ready to concede the elections, concede defeat in these elections?
So, Nancy, now it is more than clear that Donald Trump has been trying to be, double-faced when it came to misguide or instigate the crowd in order to march towards Capitol Hill. He never intended to make it a peaceful protest. In fact, he continued to support the crowd and their marching until it all became chaotic and they stormed into the building. Later, though, he tried to tell people through his social media account that they should go home and let it be a peaceful, but he did not accept the fact that this whole chaos are wrong. This is not something of a protest. This is kind of a chaos, and this shouldn't have been, this anarchical protest shouldn't have been done. And probably this is why the unprecedented steps were taken by several social media agencies or companies when it's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and several other media accounts have been almost stopped, and he's not being able to continue with the tweeting or putting any information out in the open, because so far he's not being able to pacify his supporters. He's only trying to defend them in a milder way, and which has actually not helped authorities or the lawmakers control the situation. Now even Joe Biden, the president-elect, has called for Donald Trump to go on national TV and tell the crowd that this whole situation is nothing that they should have done. However, we don't see any report of anything such, as yet that if Donald Trump is going to make a statement on national TV.
Right.
But we know that this whole thing has been condemned widely. This unprecedented act of chaos and anarchy is something that America has not still witnessed in decades, and we have not seen it. And this is why maybe the authorities and the police administration, everyone was taken off the guard. They didn't expect that this could actually happen to them. They have seen it happening in other parts of the world, and they had probably overestimated their own situation. And now probably they will rethink the way their country has become. Maybe there will be some introspection among the lawmakers. How the situation has gone so bad that the people had to storm into the Capitol Hill building. This is something that has never occurred, and so maybe the people and their conscience and their lawmakers they never had this idea that this could actually happen to them. And probably this is why it has been a situation where so many people could barge into that building, putting down all the defenses, harming security personnel. And in fact, sadly, one person also died while they were trying to enter the building and trying to, deal with this police personnel.
Okay. More clarification, Abhishek, has the debating process, the certification process, they resumed after this disruption by the violence there at the Capitol Hill? Abhishek?
Yes, Nancy.
Has the certification process now resumed, Abhishek?
So far, we don't have any news on that. But we know that as soon as now the situation has been very much under control by the authorities, so we expect that anytime soon this college counting and the congressional session and its debate on the last November election would continue.
All right, Abhishek Jha, thanks very much for joining us for the moment and sharing all those inputs. In fact, Vice President there, Mike Pence, also in fact saying to those who wreaked havoc in our capital today, you did not win. He also said violence never wins, freedom wins, and this is still the people's house. We'll keep getting you more updates and reactions on that. But we are moving on now to some other news from back home. Prime Minister Modi will dedicate to the nation the 306-kilometer long Rewari Madar section of the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor via video conferencing today. The Prime Minister will also flag off the world's first double-stack, long-haul, 1.5-kilometer long container train hauled by electric traction from New Ateli to New Kishangarh. The governors and the chief ministers of Rajasthan and Haryana, along with the Union Minister Piyush Goyal, will also be present on the occasion. Now, with the inauguration of this section, seamless connectivity between the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor and the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor will be achieved. Earlier, the 351-kilometer New Bhaupur-New Khurja section of the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor was dedicated to the nation by Prime Minister on 29th of December last year. Now moving on, the central government is gearing up for the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine across the country. 2 COVID vaccines have been given emergency use authorization by the Drugs Controller General of India recently. The rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine is expected to begin in the near future. The milestone entails the need for testing of all the planned mechanisms for conducting the vaccination drive in the country. And as a simulation of actual execution, another round of dry run or the mock drill in all the 700+ districts of all the states and the union territories will take place tomorrow to ensure efficient planning and the management of vaccine delivery. All the states will undertake dry run tomorrow except Uttar Pradesh, which has already conducted the dry run on the 5th of January, and Haryana, who will be conducting the dry run today. Now, each district will identify 3 types of session sites similar to the previous dry run, including a public health facility, a private health facility, and the rural or urban outreach sites. Around 1.7 lakh vaccinators and 3 lakh vaccination team members have been trained on the process to be followed at the vaccination sites. Now, in this regard, Union Minister of Health and Family Welfare, Dr. Harshvardhan, will hold a meeting with the state and the Union Territory Health Ministers today to guide them on the conduct of the dry run. And moving on now to some other news, and in fact getting you all the updates as far as the bird flu there is concerned, and more updates on that, how really this bird flu is being tackled in India. And, the spectre there is now looming large across the country. Here's a report.
The coronavirus pandemic is yet to abate, but the spectre of a bird flu outbreak is now looming large over the country. Cases of the disease have cropped up among migratory birds and poultry in Kerala, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh and Haryana. The centre has taken the matter seriously, and the Wildlife Division of the Environment Ministry has written to Chief Secretaries of all states and union territories to take all measures to stop the spread of the disease to humans and other domestic animals or birds. A control room has been set up in Delhi to closely monitor the situation. The disease remains zoonotic and there is no proof yet of its spreading among humans due to the consumption of infected poultry and related products.
उसके लिए एक कंट्रोल रूम रहता है जिसका वेबसाइट हमारा ओपन है उस पर सारे गाइडलाइन हैं। एडवाइजरी भी हमने जारी कर दिया है। भारत सरकार अलर्ट है, राज्य अलर्ट है। राज्यों के से नमूने भी भोपाल जा रहे हैं और घबराने की कोई बात नहीं है।
लेकिन आज तक हिंदुस्तान में इसका वैसे ट्रांसमिट हो सकती है ह्यूमन में, लेकिन ट्रांसमिशन की कोई रिपोर्ट आज तक हिंदुस्तान में रिपोर्टेड नहीं हुई है। तो अभी जो भी है उसके प्रिवेंटिव मेजर जो करते हैं, कोई ट्रीटमेंट तो इसका है नहीं, लेकिन सावधानी बरतें सभी प्रदेश सरकारें, और जो उनका डिस्पोजल ठीक हो बर्ड्स का जो मर चुकी हैं, और उसको किसी तरह से मूवमेंट रेस्ट्रिक्ट किया जाए बर्ड्स का इस समय पे। यही कुछ सावधानियां हैं, इसकी सावधानी है, ट्रीटमेंट इसका नहीं है।
Nonetheless, Union Health Ministry has deployed multidisciplinary teams to avian influenza affected Alappuzha and Kottayam districts in Kerala and Panchkula district in Haryana. The teams have been sent to assist state health departments in implementing the disease containment plan. Another high-level team comprising Director NCDC and Joint Secretary and COVID-19 Nodal Officer, Ministry of Food Processing Industries, has been deployed in Kerala. The Kerala government is taking containment measures after the infection was confirmed in ducks in 5 panchayats of the 2 districts. It's been declared a special state emergency in Kerala.
We have identified around 10,500 ducklings or birds around the infected area. All the 10,500 will be culled in the next 2 days. Action has already been started, and the process has started yesterday. Post-operative sanitization work will also be completed.
In Madhya Pradesh, Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan called an emergency meeting on Wednesday to assess the efforts being made to stop the spread of the bird flu in the state. He issued instructions for inspection of all poultry farms at the district level. In Uttar Pradesh, following directions issued by Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, instructions have been issued by the Animal Husbandry Department for regular surveillance at poultry farms.
चिंता की जरूरत नहीं है, लेकिन कोई भी पोल्ट्री फार्म में अभी हमने रैंडम चेक करने के निर्देश दिए। ये बीमारी नहीं है। मैंने कलेक्टर्स को निर्देश दिए हैं कि जिले में जितने भी पोल्ट्री फार्म हैं उनके संचालकों से बात करके पूरी गाइडलाइन जारी करें।
State government officials are also on their toes in Rajasthan to tackle the rising cases of bird flu. The Animal Husbandry Department is making all efforts to save migratory birds from the disease at the Bharatpur National Bird Sanctuary.
आने वाले समय में हम इसकी रोकथाम कर पाए, जहां भी जगह चिन्हित होती है वहां इस संक्रमण को रोकने का हम पूरा प्रयास करेंगे। एक तरह से जैसे कोरोना में हम स्प्रे करते थे, तो जहां भी ये पाए जाते हैं उसके 1-1.5 किलोमीटर के अंदर पूरा स्प्रे करके फिर इस वायरस को खत्म करने का काम प्रदेश की सरकार करेगी, विभाग करेगा।
Over 2,700 migratory birds have died due to avian influenza in Himachal Pradesh. Kangra district administration has stopped the sale of poultry and fishery products in 4 divisions of the district adjoining Pong Dam. Surveillance has been stepped up in several other states after cases of bird flu emerged in 5 states. Tamil Nadu has initiated several preventive measures at the border adjoining Kerala. Himachal adjoining state Uttarakhand has also issued an alert on Tuesday. Forest divisions of the state have been directed to maintain strict vigil against the disease. The Animal Husbandry Department in Gujarat has also been put on alert. The first outbreak of avian influenza in India took place in 2006. Not a single case of the disease spreading to humans has been detected in India so far. The virus usually spreads in India after the arrival of migratory birds from September onwards through the winter. With Thiruvananthapuram, Bhopal, Shimla, Jaipur and Lucknow bureaus, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Prime Minister Modi held a video teleconference with his German counterpart, Chancellor Angela Merkel. The Prime Minister appreciated the long-standing role of Chancellor Merkel in providing stable and strong leadership at the European and the global stage, and thanked her for guiding the growth of the India-Germany strategic partnership. The two leaders discussed key issues of mutual importance, including the response to COVID-19 pandemic, bilateral ties, regional and global issues, particularly the India-European Union relations. Prime Minister Modi briefed Chancellor Merkel on the developments in India with regard to vaccine development and assured the Chancellor of India's commitment to deploy its capacities for the benefit of the world. He conveyed his best wishes for the early containment of the new wave of infections in Germany and other European countries. Prime Minister Modi welcomed Germany's decision to join the International Solar Alliance and expressed his desire to further strengthen the cooperation with Germany under the platform of the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. noting that this year marks the 70th anniversary of setting up of the bilateral relations between India and Germany and the 20th anniversary of the strategic partnership. The two leaders agreed to hold the 6th intergovernmental consultations at an early date in 2021 and to set an ambitious agenda for the same. And let's move on now to some other news and talk about the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar's visit, the ongoing visit to Colombo. It's his first overseas visit this year, and besides reviewing the anti-terror cooperation, maritime security, trade and investment, India and Sri Lanka also discussed about the post-COVID cooperation. Here's more in this report.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar called on Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa on day 2 of his 3-day visit to Sri Lanka. The minister said in a tweet, I quote, conveyed warm greetings from PM Narendra Modi, discussed cooperation for post-COVID health and economic recovery. India will be a reliable partner in Sri Lanka's development, unquote. He also held talks with his Sri Lankan counterpart, Dinesh Gunawardene. Addressing a joint news conference after the talks, Jaishankar said that the pandemic did not dent the bilateral cooperation.
As maritime countries in the Indian Ocean, India and Sri Lanka have a shared interest in ensuring maritime security and safety. We have a long history of cooperation in this regard. India, as many of you know, has been a first responder in some emergency situations. I'm confident that this domain of cooperation will continue to expand in the days ahead. We stand ready to enhance Sri Lanka's capabilities to meet growing maritime and security challenges.
He spoke about the Tamil issue, reminding his hosts about the importance of the 13th Amendment to Sri Lanka's constitution.
Our support for the reconciliation process in Sri Lanka is long-standing, as indeed for an inclusive political outlook that encourages ethnic harmony. It is in Sri Lanka's own interest that the expectations of the Tamil people for equality, justice, peace and dignity within a united Sri Lanka are fulfilled. That applies equally to the commitments made by the Sri Lankan government on meaningful devolution, including the 13th Amendment of the Constitution. The progress and prosperity of Sri Lanka will surely be advanced as a consequence.
The fishermen's issue came up for discussion too. India hopes for an early return of its fishermen from Sri Lanka. The fishermen were detained for inadvertently trespassing into the Sri Lankan waters. This was the Indian Foreign Minister's first overseas visit this year. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And moving on now to sports news. While the rain has stopped the play between Australia and India on day 1 in the ongoing third test match at the Sydney Cricket Ground, the visitors have picked an early wicket with Mohammad Siraj registering the dismissal of opener David Warner. The two teams come into the fixture with the series tied 1-1. The visitors welcome back Rohit Sharma. Meanwhile, Navdeep Saini has made his debut in the longest format. Currently, the lunch break is underway. And we'll keep getting you more news from across the country and the world. But for now, it's a wrap. Thanks for being with us.